Going into the fall major, no one really had Moist Esports making any kind of run. Lo and behold, after 4 days of competition, they somehow managed to find themselves in the grand finals against Gen.G. Unfortunately, this is where the Cinderella Moist run would come to a close. And today we're going to take a deep dive into just what went wrong in the final match of that grand final against Gen.G that caused Moist to fall just short of victory. We are going to be taking a look at things starting directly from the opening kickoff. Unfortunately for Moist, it does not take all that long for things to go south in this Game 6 against Gen.G. So off we go on the first kickoff, and the first thing we'll see pretty quickly is Moist is immediately going to start struggling for boost. So what we'll see is we'll have Aztral here. He went over to grab this corner. Replay bug, it's not actually there. Aztral did pick it up, and he's already burned his boost down to just 53 left. Joyo is at 0 after going for the opening kickoff, and he is going to manage to pick up the mid boost, and then he's going to get demoed by Noly, so it's going to make this boost pickup absolutely worthless, as we see right there. Now, this corner boost is here right now. Rise is currently racing Kronovi to it, and unfortunately for Moist, we're going to see Rise also get beat out to that boost by Kronovi. At this point, we have Aztral with 8 boosts floating in the air on the sidewall. Rise in net with 0. Joyo in the corner, 33. So Moist is already in a tough spot when it comes to boost. Now the important thing that we're going to want to notice here is the positioning of Gen.G. What we're going to see through the course of this play is that Gen.G is always going to have someone positioned directly on this midfield line. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow them to catch these clears from Moist as they come down. So we'll see Moist take a couple of attempts at clearing this ball, and there's always going to be somebody around this midfield line that is going to be able to push in to deny these clears. And what that will do is it will further exasperate the boost starvation that Moist is experiencing. So as we'll see here as we roll this forward, ApparentlyJack sitting right on that midfield line is going to be able to pick up this ball and take it into his control. Joyo, struggling for boost, is going to try to get up just to put a hand up for ApparentlyJack so he can't have the net for free. Rotating around, Rise goes up with 12 and manages to get a block. And again, look at where Gen.G is positioning. So we have 2 players pushed up right here, but again, their third is just sitting comfortably right along this midfield line. And what we'll see is as the ball travels out in this direction, this player is just going to follow it across the field. Not going to do anything crazy, just going to follow it right across the field to make sure he can stay in the play, make sure they can further deny clears from Moist. Because what Gen.G is really trying to do is they're not really trying to directly attack the net. Instead, what they want to do is they want to continue to put Moist in awkward situations by starving their boost out and making sure that they deny the clears. And what Gen.G want is they want to be able to send in one player as an initial challenge, which causes the player on Moist who's trying to get the clear to lose possession of the ball, meaning the player at midfield can just take over control and continue offensive pressure. Now the real big culprit as to why this first goal goes in is going to come right here between Joyo and Rise, and right here as Aztral attempts to get this ball out of their half. So we're going to hop on board with the cam of Joyo here as he goes up for this challenge. Now, what we're going to see is he's very quickly going to turn off ball cam right here, and you'll notice that corner boost has spawned. Now, the problem we're going to run into is both Rise and Joyo are on 0 boost. However, instead of either of them committing to go get this corner, meaning that one of them would have plenty of boost to be able to deal with whatever play Gen.G throws at them, they instead both just kind of meander around, don't really do a whole lot, don't really commit to doing much of anything, and then they both just turn back to net at the same time. So instead of one of them being able to take the time to go get that corner and being able to properly defend this play coming through from Gen.G, they're both stuck with 0 boost, meaning they can't get up or get out to challenge any ball that Gen.G is going to throw at them. Now the other breakdown here comes from what Aztral does. So we know we have our 2 other defenders struggling with 0 boost. So Aztral's job currently is to buy as much time as possible for his team to get organized on defense. Unfortunately, what Aztral does is buy as little time as possible, essentially, because he takes control of this ball, which is fantastic. Now, unfortunately, Kronovi does snag this corner, so Aztral's stuck on low boost. That's fine. In situations like this, we want to try to keep as much of the play in our own control as possible. And generally when you're on low boost, the safest thing you can go for is just 50ing the ball on the ground. Make sure that the ball ends up in a more unpredictable space. If you're driving the ball towards your opponent, you are the one that's dictating how the challenge is going to go, so you can decide pretty much what direction you really want to send the ball in. Now what Aztral goes for instead is he tries to get this flick. Now this is a really high risk, high reward type play, because if he does get enough power on this flick, it is very possible that it just gets all the way downfield. And that's great, that's what we want. The problem is, he is on low boost, so this flick isn't going to be all that powerful, and if it lacks power, even if it gets over the top of Chronic, Noly is literally sitting right here to just come over and cut off whatever clear ends up in this area here. So what I instead would have liked to see is just a 50-50 here from Aztral, where he controls where the ball goes. Because apparently Jack's on really low boost, so if he manages to pinch this ball and it goes, you know, up this wall, that's just fine, because apparently Jack's not really going to turn on that because he doesn't have any boost. Additionally, if the ball pinches out, you know, in this direction, that's also fine, because Noly has to turn to try to attack it, and it still buys these guys a little bit more time to get set on defense, rather than Noly immediately being able to take back over control of this play, which is what we're going to see here, because Chronic gets this block. Lo and behold, here comes Noly. Free touch. Now this is where we're going to see the issues of the boost on the back end, because Rise simply does not have the boost to get up for this ball, so he misses this touch on the backboard because he doesn't have enough boost for it, and now Joyo is stuck in net with Chronic getting a free touch. Now Joyo doesn't have the boost to be able to push out to cut down Chronic's attack here, so he instead has to sit right on the goal line, and not only that, but he can't even jump maybe as early as he would like because he has Noly screening across the net at him, so Joyo's just kind of a sitting duck here, has to wait, and Chronic perfectly places the ball into the upper left. So really that play comes down to two things. Number one, Aztral not doing enough with the ball to buy his team enough time to get reset on defense. And number two, Joyo and Rise not quickly organizing themselves to make sure one of them was boosted up and fully ready to defend. Moving on here to the second goal that Moist is going to concede. It all starts here as this ball travels into Moist's corner. And we're really going to want to focus on Joyo back here being stuck pretty much on 0 boost. Now what's going to happen here is as Joyo works to rotate back, he is going to race Noly for this boost. And what's going to happen is he's going to lose out on it. So let's take a look as Joyo comes back here. We'll see this race for the mid boost. Noly does beat it out. And now watch Joyo's rotation. He gets 1, 2, 3 small pads. So not bad, considering that he went for the 100 and missed it, so he managed to pick up what was left on his rotation. However, he could have gotten 5 or 6 small pads if he had just committed to that route immediately. And we'll want to keep this boost amount on Joyo in mind as this play develops. Now the next issue we're going to see here is this uncharacteristic miss from Rise. So if we go back just a little bit, we'll watch this ball pop out. Chronic gets the block and drops it down to the ground. Now Rise has plenty of boost, plenty of time, nobody else goes up for this ball, and for whatever reason, it just goes over his head. Now if we look at the overall positioning of Moist, we have Rise floating in the air, Aztral rotating back, and this now leaves Joyo as the next man in rotation to go out and challenge this ball. Of course, with this low boost and this unexpected miss from Rise, he is not going to be able to get out fast enough to beat ApparentlyJack to this ball. Which all in all isn't a big deal. Joyo still puts himself in a lovely position to defend this play. As he watches ApparentlyJack catch this ball, Joyo positions himself perfectly on the back wall to be able to defend ApparentlyJack coming across towards the box. Joyo's job right now is to basically prevent ApparentlyJack from getting an easy pass out to the midfield, and that's exactly what he does by sitting in this spot. So as we roll forward here, we'll see Joyo's challenge beautifully forces the ball high into the midfield, which now brings Noly into the play. Now this is where we're going to see the impact of that low boost on Joyo. You see, as Noly goes up for this ball here, Joyo is also going to follow up the wall, and then as soon as he recognizes where Noly is going to play this ball, he's going to follow it across and try to get a challenge on this wall against ApparentlyJack. Now this is quite the distance to cover, and granted a lot of it is done with your wheels on the ground, but right around this area, your wheels are going to come off the ground, so you're pretty much going to have to rely on boost to correct your flight path. And of course, Joyo doesn't have a whole lot of boost to do that with. So as we roll it forward, we'll see Joyo identified. Noly's playing this to the left side. Okay, let's follow it over there. And he tries his best, uses his flip, and just about gets a challenge on ApparentlyJack and just misses it by a hair. So now that Joyo's missed this challenge, it is now reliant on Aztral and Rise to defend this net and prevent Gen.G from taking the lead in this match. Now you'll notice the positioning of Rise and Aztral, they're both facing back towards the wall. No one is facing out towards the midfield, so as this ball comes across, no one is going to be able to get out to challenge it fast enough. In all honesty, even if Joyo does get a challenge here, the chances that this ball is going to bounce somewhere into the midfield are pretty high. And if it does bounce into the corner or towards the backboard, that's where Aztral can cover it. So I actually like Astral's positioning here, because if this ball does pinch past Joyo or ApparentlyJack tries to take control back along the backboard, Astral's there to cut him off. In my opinion, Rise here, as this ball comes across, should be prepared to turn into the midfield to cut off any ball that comes across that area. This would mean that as that ball came across, Kronovi would not have a free touch on the ball, and instead Rise would be there to challenge him. As it actually happens, Rise does turn back towards the net here, which means when this ball comes across, Rise has to take the time to turn around to be able to go challenge the ball. And what this does is gives Kronovi just enough time to get a free touch on the ball. Now Aztral is in the least enviable position ever, as he just kind of has to guess where this ball is going to go and hope he guesses right. Unfortunately, in this situation, he just doesn't get the guess correct. So when you look at that play as a whole, you got another poor boost situation for Joyo, which prevents him from making a challenge that he'd like to, an awkward miss from Rise that allows Gen.G to maintain control of the ball, and then the defensive positioning of Moist just does not allow them to challenge the ball in the midfield when it comes across, allowing Gen.G to get a free touch, and honestly, a somewhat free goal. Now the overall downfall of Moist begins here with just 15 seconds left. Now the first thing I want to take a look at is Aztral here, as he sits on the field with only 12 boost. This corner is ripe for the taking, and he has one player on the ball, another player ready to challenge the ball, so I believe that he has time to circle around here and grab this boost and make it back to net before any real issues arise. Or at the very worst, he has time to circle all of these small pads. Instead, what he does is he kind of just avoids all of them and rotates back in the net, picks up one, rotates back in the net with 23 when he could have a full 100. And now what this is going to do is it's going to allow ApparentlyJack here to collect this boost for free. And this boost collection is going to be one of the most important elements of this play, and it could have been completely shut down if Aztral had just rotated out to take that corner, rather than staying in the midfield. Now the second element that needs to go into this to cause problems is going to be this clear here from Rise. So if we look at the positioning of Gen.G, as we already stated, ApparentlyJack is traveling this way, he is not going to challenge the ball, and nobody else is on the Moist half. So we have a ton of space to just let this ball come down, and then we can take over and take it in to an air dribble or some kind of control that would allow us to maintain possession of the play instead of just giving possession back to Gen.G in an overall panic. Now instead of being patient with this play, what Rise does is he jumps off the wall here and he booms the ball away. Now in hindsight, this might have been an attempted pass down to Joyo. Unfortunately, Joyo only has one boost, so he's on his way over to that mid boost there to go ahead and pick that up. So all this does is give this ball directly to Kronovi. Now this is where we're going to see the real problem of allowing ApparentlyJack to have this boost. So as Kronovi receives this ball, he's going to make a really nice touch on it, sending it directly over to ApparentlyJack. Now ApparentlyJack is going to turn around and go to challenge this ball into the corner. So at this point, Aztral finds himself in a real awkward spot, once again, because he has all three Gen.G players starting to bear down on the defensive half of Moist. Now as this ball comes through the air, we have Joyo, who just picked up the mid-100, rotating back. Now his thought process here is, okay, we're in a bit of a rough spot, I see that apparently Jack's going to jump up to make a touch on this. Maybe I can cut the ball off around this area as Jack touches the ball off the wall. Unfortunately, what happens is Joyo just misses the read. It's really close, but he just misses it by about a car length. But that's not the end of the world. That's fine. Like, he went for something really difficult. He didn't get the touch. Not the end of the world. The problem we're going to see right here is what immediately happens after this. And if we slow it down, what we'll see, this ball bounce out, and let's look at where the two defenders of Moist go. They just stay solely glued to the back line. Now this is going to be pretty similar to what we saw in the second goal, where we just allowed all kinds of space in the midfield for a Gen.G player to get a free touch. Joyo has a decent chance by being able to jump off the wall, because he can go right out to ball height instead of having to turn around and jump out to reach it. So in my opinion, I think Joyo, as soon as he missed this, should be jumping out to try to get a block on this. He doesn't have to get a great touch, just has to get a touch to allow time for Rise to get back, and I'll make sure that Gen.G doesn't have an immediate shot on the net. However, because they both stay on the back wall, what this allows is it allows Noly to just basically survey all of his options. What choices do I really have here? What decisions can I make? And oh my, does he make a great one, because as he comes through for this touch, he sees ApparentlyJack jumping off the wall and perfectly touches down into him. Now let's point something out. Because no one challenged this ball in the midfield, as soon as this touch comes in from Noly, it's game over. Because as soon as this touch happens, there is no way that you are reacting to a ball that's coming from here into your net. Just not happening. You're never going to react to that in time. If Moist wanted to put a stop to this, they needed to challenge the ball as it was coming out to Noly. There were two main issues that cost Moist in this last game. The first one was just some moments of poor boost management, meaning that players couldn't get out or get up to challenge balls in time. The second, and the much more pressing issue, was not challenging the ball in the midfield, especially when you had two players sitting on the back line. I am not sure if it was a lack of communication, a misunderstanding of who should challenge the ball in those situations, or simply a conscious choice not to challenge the midfield. Whatever the reason, Moist simply gave Gen.G too much space on the ball in the midfield, and it resulted in a bunch of free touches that allowed Gen.G to put the ball exactly where they wanted to, and resulted in some devastating plays that Moist was forced to react to, rather than proactively cutting them down. All in all, though, this was a very good run from Moist. I am sure very few people expected to see them make a run of any kind of this event, so I'm sure this will bolster their confidence and they'll come back even better in the winter split. As always, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on my thoughts down in the comments below, whether you think I was right or whether you think I missed a thing or two. Feel free to let me know. I'd love to have a discussion about that. And of course, if you guys enjoy videos like this and other videos that I have produced, please consider clicking that bright red subscribe button right down below this video. It really does help me out a lot more than you guys realize, and I really do appreciate it. So thank you everybody so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. See you later, guys.